All right, be respectful in the meeting chat and with each other, and be professional. This is not formal training, it's just a briefing and an update. Always ensure you check official standards, rule books, stuff like that, if you're ever unsure. So 00130, which is about creating a site of work that is segregated from the railway. So it's a way of creating areas that are not classed as on or near the line, and removing the risk of going on or near the line, so that OHS 019 is not needed, therefore COSs are not needed. All right. It means that some of the stringent controls as per 019, and obviously the associated costs are helped mitigated against. The key principle of it is to allow non-PTS staff and contractors to work within the railway boundaries, but still being isolated from what's known as the operational railway, to ensure that they are protected adequately. 00130 should be used for any platform work, any line side locations where you're not setting up a safe system of work explicitly from 019. You can set up work within possessions as well that can be segregated, and any vertical segregation. So you might be doing rope work, cleaning windows on a building. You know, you're technically on or near the line because you're above it, but you can segregate away from it as well. The standard itself obviously covers personnel and their safety, the different equipment requirements and arrangements and stuff to take around that, movement, storage and materials, and any other sort of work-based activity. The whole purpose and the benefit is obviously that it improves safety by removing the operational railway risk, ensuring that there's no risk to going on it. And then also help with resource flexibility, because it allows companies the option to put non-PTS staff out on jobs, or minimizing the requirement for COS staff. As far as reasonably practicable, any jobs done under this must not import or impose risk to the operational railway. If it does, and then you default down to the OHS 019 standard. This standard will reference OHS 005. However, be mindful that that doesn't exist anymore. It's now this very long title here. All right. 005 used to be what's the high street working environment, high street working standard that the older COSs and older RMs and stuff might know or remember. That's no longer what it is. That standard itself is now focused more around the design and construction management when working in a high street environment, as opposed to the personnel safety focus, because the personnel safety focus is now covered by this standard. All right. So if you do get a copy of this and read it and see this, it is, no longer applicable. So we still have a responsible manager as a key role in this. They obviously deliver the works, are accountable for planning the works, arranging and booking the resources needed to segregate the site of work from the railway, and to operate correctly. It could be network rail staff, could be a contractor, it doesn't matter, right? But the responsible manager should be able to apply decision criteria to determine if 00130 applies, and if it does, what module and specific requirements should be taken. You've then got someone that's known as a site controller. And although a site controller must hold a COS competence, that is not the same as being a COS. Okay. You're not acting as a COS because you're not on or near the line. You are a site controller. And although the key responsibilities are very similar, you obviously do not set up a operational safe system of work. you just implement the segregated from the railway safe systems, supervise them, make sure they stay appropriate. All right, check the risk assessments are in date and that they're correct and actually work. If you think anything starts becoming unsafe, enact emergency procedures as needed, or revise the safe systems that you've put in place. And you can appoint site wardens as well. Again, it says site warden, and if I'm honest, there's no clear definitive on if they should be site wardens as in sentinel appointed site wardens. I would assume yes, because they must wear, the site warden armlet, which is the same as a normal site warden. So the site warden essentially acts as a barrier rather than an actual barrier. So let's say you couldn't put up a fence or permanent fence or temporary fence for whatever reason, as a mechanical or engineering control to keep the site segregated. At the very bottom of the hierarchy of segregation methods, we can use a site warden who will stand there and just shout, "Get back," to anyone that starts straying towards that safe boundary, to prevent them going onto the operational railway. The standard itself is split into 4 different modules. So obviously you can find the one relevant to you and see if there's any explicit instructions. But you'll see module 1 is about working on a platform, which includes platform maintenance, platform repairs, station furniture, lighting installs, cable running, signage, building works, posters. Anything like that is done under this standard, which is why COS assessments cannot be done when someone is working on a platform, unless they're in the area known as on or near the line, which is obviously within that 1.25 meters. Any other works, even if it's on a tower doing lighting installs, should have been planned in such a way that they're segregated from the railway and don't have a risk of going on or near the line. I see it an awful lot as an assessor when I go out there, that you get someone with a tower putting lighting up, and there's a COS appointed, and that COS has got a safe work pack that says they're working separated. To work separated, you need a minimum of 2 meters. When on or near the line only goes up to 1.25 meters on a platform, you see how you can't be separated from it, because anything over that, you're no longer on it. Which is why, if you are using a tower and there's a risk to going on or near the line, especially now that lookouts are so much more stringent, there should obviously be line blocks or possessions in place. You can't just have a COS and a safe work pack saying there's a risk to going on or near the line because there's a tower up, and then not have the appropriate controls for it in place. You've also then got obviously line side locations, so not at platform level, down on track level, might be fencing, boundary fencing work, tree cutting, maintaining signaling equipment that's right up against the boundary, things like that. Again, all of this should really be planned for as segregated if there's no reason to be going on or near the line. And then we've got module 3, which is quite an interesting one. It's when you come into work within a possession, you are allowed to segregate yourself while still being on or near the line. Almost, although obviously the terminology is incorrect, but it's almost like a work site in a work site, but that work site, it keeps you safe from train movements and stuff, right? It's a bit more convoluted and complex on how this is set up, but the easiest example that I've come to find about explaining this one is like high speed 2. For instance, you're turning it into more of a construction site rather than a railway site, because technically you're on the railway because you're laying a new track or building a new track. But obviously there's no track yet. So that's where module 3 is typically used, all right? And then module 4, vertical, is when you're above or below, you know, in a vertical manner. Again, unless there's an explicit risk of something going on or near the line, you can't just say, oh, we'll throw a COS out there with a safe work pack. If there is a genuine risk of going on or near the line, then obviously you're going to need to have had line blockages or other methods set up to protect the trains and people, right? But ultimately, it all comes down to the responsible manager to apply the correct criteria, correct documents and stuff, and appoint the right people, such as site controller or controllers, if there's more than one. Why this is important? A, COSs, as part of your knowledge requirements, should understand and know this, because obviously you can act as a site controller. But also, having an understanding of when we're working under 00130 or 019 also helps you keep the maintenance of your own competencies, all right? We get a lot of assessments cancelled because they're not technically on or near the line. And a lot of people still don't understand that. This should hopefully help you understand why. Understand that just because we're near the railway doesn't mean a COS is needed. It might mean there are other protection methods needed. So it's nice to understand that. You know, as an assessing company, the last thing we want to be doing is cancelling assessments and upsetting our clients, because then we don't get you coming back every year, every couple of years. We don't do it for fun. There's a reason we do it. We have to do it. So as COSs, it's nice to understand why you know, your assessment might have been cancelled before. I said it earlier, but I just want to remake it clear. Although you have to hold a valid COS competence, you are not acting as a COS, you are acting as a site controller, okay? So don't get confused with that. Practical application, like I went over it a bit earlier, but just to summarize, obviously anything over 1.25 meters away from the edge of a platform, you're no longer you're no longer on or near the line, which means that there should really be a site controller, not a COS, who is there with either physical barriers installed, or it can be virtual boundaries maintained by a site warden, fixed temporary, fixed permanent, any sort of physical or any sort of barrier to prevent people going on or near the line. If you can't do that, you can't segregate from the railway, then you need to be planning as if you are on or near the line, which means you can't just put separated, because you can't get that 2 meters separation whilst on or near the line, because it's less than 2 meters, which means that you should have line blockages in place and stuff like that. All right. The argument of, oh, well, we're going to have a COS there with a site warden to prevent people going on or near the line and stay 2 meters away from the platform edge, it doesn't work, because as you can see, that would automatically default to a site controller with a site warden. But yeah, there you go. Key takeaways. Obviously, although we refer to it as a safe system of work, it's not the safe systems of work in 019, and you're not on or near the line. So although you're COS qualified, you're not a COS in terms of acting as a COS on that shift. Anything that is platform work over the 1.25 meters with no risk of going within that, you can't do COS assessments on it because you're segregated. You're not classed as on or near the line. And the segregation standard should really be implemented more by our planners and responsible managers. Unfortunately, it's one of those standards that just sort of went under the radar for some reason. And quite a few people that I've met don't even know it exists. But it will allow obviously non-PTS staff to then work in these areas that are segregated, help with resourcing and planning, as well as ensuring everyone's still safe, even if you do use PTS staff. But that's it. Like I said, super quick overview on it, just to give people an awareness more than anything. Those of you in the chat, obviously I know there's not loads of you in here, but just so you're aware, the next meeting is a little bit later on to give me time to actually eat this morning and try and catch up on some of my emails that are flooding in. The handbook, rulebook, and quality changes or quality of provision briefings starts at 13:15, so 1:15. And again, it's its own meeting, so you will have to leave and join the other meeting. I don't have a link to it to hand, I'm afraid, but if you've followed a link that takes you to the website with all of the events on it that I published on LinkedIn and through some chats and stuff like that, then you can obviously join the last one. But yeah, I appreciate everyone coming. Thank you very much. I hope this was somewhat helpful. If you've been on the other meetings, same thing applies here. Questions, issues, concerns, wanting any help, always just feel free to reach out. Yeah, I will reply to everyone when I get a minute. I'm always happy to try and help where I can. But also, bear in mind, I don't know everything, and this is my understanding and interpretations and things like that. Just trying to find a link whilst I'm on here for you all for the next one, for those of you that are interested, which is the next one is kind of the big one, which is why it's last, to give us time to not overrun. Copy meeting link. $13.15. There you go. So there's the link if you don't have it in the chat. Next one is, like I said, we go over handbooks 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 12 or 11. Can't remember off the top of my head, sorry. So it's quite a big one, quite an interesting one. It basically takes everything that I've discussed this morning and discusses the implementation of it and how it is done in practice. So hopefully I'll see you six there. If not, thanks for joining. I'll speak to you all at some point, hopefully.